What if all the rich, diverse journeys of our souls are how God explores the universe as us? And what if we awaken to that? What then? Come join us as we open the door to all the adventures of being human in these times on this beautiful planet we call home. Hello, Salish. I just wanted to welcome you to the show, and I've really appreciated the good work that you've done for many years now on behalf of the planet. You know, you're really a holistic thinker who looks in a very wide direction, and you have some solutions for
Mm.
some of the major issues you see
Right.
facing our planet right now. And if you could tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to that, and what these you think these issues are, I'd love to hear it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm an engineer by profession. I'm actually a systems engineer,
Uh-huh.
and I did my PhD at the Information Systems Laboratory in Stanford University back in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And systems thinking basically trains you to look at the 10,000 foot perspective on
Yeah,
things.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. So how do you model something? How do you predict how it's going to behave and how
Mhm.
you can then intervene in it, stabilize it? So initially, for the first 20 years, I was working on the internet,
Yeah.
making it more robust. I helped turn it from analog to digital in the communications realm.
We have you to thank for that because that's really made a difference in our world in terms of our ability to share information and just basically, I'd say, wake up, and get past this
Right. Yeah.
limited control of mainstream media.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really helped us find our own truth as opposed to being fed a whole bunch of lies.
Right. Yes, exactly. And then we've seen plenty of those in our lifetimes, and it seems like we're living in a time of revelations almost where we're seeing more and more. It's like I don't know how much we can handle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so what are some of the things that you are most passionate about with regards to change
Yeah.
that you think needs to happen?
Um, I am, I've been an environmentalist now for about 18 years. I've been working on the environment since 2006. I did that because I was shocked by what I had learned from Al Gore's presentation. I said, if half of what he's saying is true, what is everybody doing?
Yeah.
We should be working on this full time. I felt as if he was telling me there's a fire on the planet and
Ah,
everybody is going around smoking cigarettes and throwing into the fire,
yeah.
you know?
That's a funny
So it
enough.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Right.
So I started looking into it and I realized it's actually far worse than what he was saying because he was only focusing on one symptom of the
Uh,
problem. And there are so many much worse
that
things
was
going on. Yeah.
the idea of global warming or climate change.
It's just one symptom. It's like the fever that the earth has. And there are a
Right.
whole bunch of other,
Yeah. Okay.
cancer and diabetes and heart
Right.
disease that the earth has that no one's looking at.
Right.
And that's when I started saying, we have to address this as holistically. So I started Climate Healers as a nonprofit in 2007.
And you called it
And
climate healers, even though you thought that the issue was beyond climate.
yes, I call it Climate Healers because I was looking for planet healers,
Mhm.
Earth healers, and they were all taken.
Oh. Oh, now we know. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All
So I
right.
said, okay, climate is what everybody seems to be talking about. So I
Uh-huh.
call it Climate Healers. And it was there. So I
Yeah.
took it.
So the other issues that you see as important, I think, have to do with resources and natural systems.
Nature is fundamentally a self-healing system. Okay. To me, nature is the perfect system design. I mean, as a systems engineer, I'm in awe of nature
Yes.
because it's just amazing, how there is no waste in nature. The waste from one becomes the input to another,
Yeah.
and everything is cyclic. And I was looking at it and I was saying, except for humans, we are the only ones who seem to be creating waste that has no input, it's not input to anything else.
Yeah.
And we are literally behaving like a species that doesn't belong on Earth
Uh-huh.
compared to all the other species. So I had that model in my mind. If you just take humans out, the planet will be fine. If you put
Uh-oh.
humans in, the planet dies, right?
Uh-huh.
And then my granddaughter was born in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and she instantly convinced me that we belong exactly as we
Mm-hmm.
are,
Yeah.
that she's just as perfect as every other animal on the
Yeah.
planet. And so I began to now then look at everything, assuming that we belong exactly as we are.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what are we doing if that's the case.
Yeah. I've shared a lot of those same feelings in my life too.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably a
Yeah.
lot of people have, like, gee, we seem really different from a lot of the other animals around here. And we are
Right.
taking everything over.
Right. But it turns out that we are taking everything over in order to do something on a planetary scale.
Oh.
I mean, like the elephant does something on the scale of a forest,
Mm-hmm.
or right. So the elephant is contributing in the scale of that ecosystem. Every creature is contributing at their own scale.
Uh-huh.
And we have been given this task, which is a planetary scale. This is why I think we, as a species, we lived in Africa, okay, for most of our lives. Only 50,000 years ago, we migrated out of Africa and went to every part of the world. We spread throughout the world. We became an invasive species everywhere, so-called invasive species. And we started agriculture simultaneously 10,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. It's as if, someone said, let's start agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And how did everyone, no matter where they were,
Yeah.
decide to do the same thing?
Well,
Something
some people
happened.
say there were visitors from other planets that were helping us.
Anyway, whatever that was, we
Yeah.
started agriculture. And in order to do agriculture, we started chopping down trees.
Started
And when
started doing what?
cutting down forests,
Cutting down trees. Uh-huh.
cutting down trees. So over the last 10,000 years, we have cut half the trees on the planet,
Well.
roughly. Okay, so there used to be 5 to 6 trillion trees, and now there are 3 trillion trees.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look from a satellite picture, you'll see that the Earth is getting brown as opposed to being green.
I have heard some things different from that there's some greening of certain areas that they think
Certain areas are getting green, but
oh,
other areas,
more
but
carbon
the brown is
dioxide.
increasing.
I have done a lot of reading on climate, and ancient history, and I've also read that with the rise of grasses in the Earth's ecosystem, which is a relatively recent thing in
Mm.
evolution after trees, I believe, that there was a big increase in forest fires, and the grasses seem to be better positioned to take over land areas than trees. Have you heard that one?
Well, yeah, some places, I mean, in any natural ecosystem, there are grazers who mingle who eat the grasses. They create like a barrier for the fire to spread too much. So
Mm-hmm.
forest fires have been a part of nature,
Oh,
for a long time,
right.
especially in dry forests, deciduous forests. Whereas tropical forests, you don't get forest fires like that because it's
Mm-hmm.
always wet, typically.
Mm-hmm.
But then the big grazers used to come and eat, a whole bunch of grasses all together and therefore
Yeah,
create a fire break.
right.
And that's how it used to be regulated. And then when we came along as a species, we started killing all these other species, right? So we killed off all the big grazers,
Uh-huh.
and then we cut down all the trees. So we became like a nasty species. But in the process, we prevented the Earth from going back to another ice age.
How do you do
So
that?
yeah, there is a book by William Rudiman, who has been doing this work for
Mhm.
20 odd years.
I'll post that.
He's a professor he was a professor at the University of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got a theory called the early Anthropocene theory, or he calls it the early Anthropocene hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, a hypothesis that has been tested for 20 odd years, slowly becomes a theory,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it has passed all those tests so far. And so in his hypothesis, he's claiming that the Earth would have gone back to another ice age 5,000 years ago, except that human beings, by cutting down trees and putting all that extra carbon into the atmosphere, we
Mm-hmm.
maintain the temperature. Okay. This is based on his global circulation models.
Well,
And and then over the last 200 years, we have increased the temperature by 1.2 degrees Celsius, probably now 1.4 degrees Celsius, right,
mhm.
from pre-industrial levels. And now we're being woken up, saying, you're overheating, wake up.
The time period you're talking about with this increase was since temperatures have been recorded. I mean,
Accurate temperatures have been recorded for about 200 years now, right? So you can see it going up in that thermometers and stuff. But then there are other proxies we use
yeah,
to deduce temperatures for the.
it is a pretty short time span compared to millions of years, the 500 million years that Phanerozoic or visible life forms have existed on Earth.
Right,
I read,
absolutely.
so that's one of my concerns when I've sometimes thought, well, maybe the alarm about
Yeah.
climate is overdone, because I've done some reading and I've got some charts, and I'll show this here. Like
Mhm.
there's been as much as 4,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide, or
Right.
500,
Yeah.
that there's been considerably warmer than it is now. And at the same time, viable life was existing. It seemed like
Right.
just fine in most of
Right.
those periods. So
Absolutely. That's true.
yeah,
But what happened was in the past, it used to take thousands of years for temperature to change by 1 degree Celsius. Today, we are doing it in 200 years,
because I
right?
heard something a long time ago from my first husband, who was quite a science buff, that ice ages have been found to be able to come on in as short as 10 years.
Oh, no,
Sure.
it doesn't happen that fast. Yeah.
I think the ice
It,
core sampling showed something like that. Maybe that idea has been changed since I heard it.
it shows about 1,000 years, you get 1 degree Celsius. And that's the kind of, if you go look at the data,
Uh-huh.
you will see the slope is about 1 degree per
Right.
1,000 years
I
type
just
of
want to
thing.
add too that I have heard, when it comes to looking at the data, that there's a bias towards urban areas. That because that's where a lot of the reporting is done, and so although they tend to be warmer because of all the things we do to heat up, our civilization,
They
and
compensate for that.
that, so they do. You think?
They do compensate for that. So, but the data I'm talking about is from
Okay.
the ice core. So it's by drilling through the ice in the
Yes.
Greenland and Antarctica, and then slicing it layer by layer and analyzing the air bubbles.
So those are the proxies that they use to go back for long periods of time.
Right.
Yeah.
They go back for 1 million years or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And it is also something that was kind of shocking to me when I did some reading on climate change, that it seemed to be valid information, that we are maybe 2 million years into like a 10 or 12 million uh, long year-long age of glaciation, in which there's ice at the
Right.
poles, which is exceptional, actually.
It's a major ice age. We are in a major ice age.
Yeah. So that
And
kind of changes the picture too, doesn't it?
no, it actually it's still consistent with what we are saying. Basically, what we are saying is that when the temperature increases so much so quickly, it's very hard for ecosystems to migrate.
To migrate,
To
like,
migrate because trees want to migrate because the
right, right,
temperature is
right.
changing. They want to
So,
migrate, and
uh-huh.
animals want to migrate.
I get it. Okay.
So yeah, so it becomes harder for them to migrate, and therefore we get an extinction
To an
event.
adjacent area that's warmer or cooler as they
Right.
need. Mhm.
This is why you get an extinction event, because now you look at the rate at which the isotherms are moving, and you realize the trees cannot move that fast.
Mhm.
You know, and this is why I think of the current warming as like a fever that the Earth has.
Mhm.
Now, if it was slower, the Earth would evolve, and that will be her normal temperature. She will increase or decrease the normal temperature depending upon the conditions. But when it happens so fast, it's like a fever, and therefore animals have to migrate, and they're not able to migrate because now we have built roads and we have built things that
Mhm.
the trees haven't migrated, so their food hasn't migrated, so they're stuck there, and then the trees die off, right?
Uh,
So this is how extinction is happening due to this climate change. It's not the only reason, but for
right.
extinction, we are literally killing them off. Yeah.
Yeah, we're literally replacing wild animals and habitats with domestic ones and factory
Right.
farms and all that,
Right. Right. Yeah. That's the major reason for extinction
and
anyway.
agriculture in general.
Right. And that is telling
Well,
us that we don't have much time. There are lots of things that are telling us we don't have much time. In fact, we may not have any time. So when I say, 2 years, I'm just basing it on the calculation that I did about how fast we are killing wild animals.
when you say any time, what is the event that you're anticipating would happen?
No, I'm looking at it from a systems perspective. I'm saying in any system, so you uh, you have a stable system. In any system, when you mess with the parameters of the system,
Mhm.
so we have messed with the life support systems of the
Right.
planet, right? So when you change that, at some point it reaches a point of no return.
Can it
So
be resilient? I mean, isn't there certain resiliency also if the
there
thing
is resiliency
as a
built
whole,
in,
as a whole web of life?
yeah. But then when you have a web of life and you tear the web,
Hmm.
okay, at some point the web says, "I'm going to just collapse and start over."
At some point, yeah.
At some point. And we don't know when that is.
Yeah.
See, we don't know it because now we have been tearing also the web of life. So
Right.
we attribute the collapse to our own tearing.
Right.
But when we stop tearing, does it come back?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Do you
You know what I mean?
do you think that overpopulation is a big factor here, or is it something else?
It's overconsumption. See, much more than population. The Earth doesn't care about our weight, how many there are of
Consume a
us.
lot because we eat a lot. We build
That's the
a lot,
problem.
and we
See, it's
make
the
all.
consumption, not only of what we eat, but also what we buy, all the things we consume, all the
Mhm.
minerals we consume. So we're creating all these holes on Earth
And
in
all the
order to
trash
extract all the minerals. In terms of our total
space.
extent of the
Right.
biomass that we have, we're not that big. If you take all of our weight, in fact, including the weight of all the farmed animals that we are raising, it doesn't even equal the weight of a medium-sized mountain. It's
Right.
not the weight that matters,
It's
it's
the
what we
biomass,
do,
but it's
what
also
we
the
eat.
biomass, isn't it? I
Yeah,
thought, isn't there like a big, I think I've heard you say this before, a big shift, from a large percentage of natural world biomass to most of it's human and human farmed animal.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we have done that. So we
Yeah.
have taken wild animals and we have cut them down by 90% or more. So
Mhm.
they're down by 90% from what they used to be 10,000 years ago. And then we have created this biomass of ourselves and our farmed animals that's actually 10 times the size of the biomass of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years
Mm. Mm.
in
So
terms of
it's the total
our
biomass,
impact.
at least of animals,
Yeah, of
has
animals.
increased a lot, and
Right.
has have plants decreased.
Yes, plants have decreased by half.
So that would have profound effects upon, I would think, oxygenation,
Exactly. It's
things like
having
that.
profound effects on lots of things, and nature is
Yeah,
desperately trying to compensate for it.
I see.
So she's compensating for it by making the existing trees bigger. The ones that are there, she's made them bigger. I
Really?
mean, she's amazing.
In the
Okay.
last 10,000 years, really?
Yeah,
Well, because there were all these huge redwoods and things like, 50 million years ago.
right. But if you look at the total sequestration of carbon, okay, in the trees and in the soil,
Mhm.
she compensated for what we cut by making the existing ones bigger. I mean, all the trees that are there, because they now have more carbon dioxide to breathe in. Because the carbon dioxide levels have gone up from 280 parts
Oh,
per million
right,
to
right.
420 parts per
Yeah,
million.
I mean, growers actually pump carbon dioxide into greenhouses to make
Right.
plants
So
grow.
because it's gone up, the vegetation has taken up more carbon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the compensation that has happened. And so this is why I say right now, if we all go vegan as a planet, if we all go vegan and we rewild the planet,
Mm-hmm.
rewild all the land that gets freed up from the animals, from the farmed animals,
Mm-hmm.
you have you can literally reverse all of our environmental problems.
Yeah, and the reason
Potentially, okay,
but
potentially.
if people aren't clear, it's just there's a certain inefficiency in converting plant food to animal food for us to eat. And so it takes 15 to 20 times more resources like water, farmland, fertilizer, fuel, and all that to eat the same amount of calories on an omnivore diet as it does on a plant-based diet.
Right.
Yeah.
In terms of food, in terms of the weight of the food, uh, it's actually 39 to 1. So you have to give 39 pounds of food to the animal to get 1 pound of food from the animal.
You can compare it on a caloric basis too.
Caloric basis, it's less from a caloric basis because
Mm-hmm.
some of the food that the animals are eating are all fiber. It doesn't have any calorie for us,
Mm-hmm.
but it has importance for them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
so this is why the caloric numbers look smaller.
And some people have also made, like Brenda Davis,
Mhm.
vegan nutritionist, has given some lectures where she said that if everybody on the planet ate like Americans do in terms of animal foods, it would probably take as many as 10 Earths, which we don't
Yeah,
have.
we don't have it.
Yeah.
No, a few Earths. I don't know. I mean, some people have come up with 4 Earths or 6 Earths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot, meaning it's impossible. But
Yeah.
then everybody's trying to eat like Americans.
Right. And more, we've seen that. It seems like in the last few decades, I mean, this movement towards the paleo, the keto, the kind of
Right.
almost an anti-vegetarian
Anti-vegan.
thing has been coming up a lot. I get so tired of all these ads on YouTube,
Right.
kind of dissing plant foods. You see it all the time.
Yeah, because they're desperately trying to cling to the system.
You think that's what it is?
That's what it is. Because this system is founded on animal exploitation, founded on all exploitation, but animal exploitation is at the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only when you can exploit animals, you exploit other people as well. You can exploit other people. But if
It,
you cannot exploit animals, you cannot exploit people.
right.
So
There's a
this is why when you go vegan and you say, I don't want to exploit animals, you're stepping out of the system.
yeah.
And they resist it because you're stepping outside the system. So you're really creating a new system.
I don't think it's even just the people at the top of the
It's
industry.
everybody. It's
Everybody,
everybody.
people at some level, I think, feel guilty about, and it's sort of a form of denial.
Yeah, it's like you no longer belong in this tribe.
Yeah.
See, we are like a herd. We are a herd animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our global herd is centered around animal exploitation.
Whether we realize it or not.
The way it's
We
just
just
built
take it
into
for
the
granted.
ether, right, of the
We just
system.
think that's the way it should be. That's God said we're given dominion over the earth, and that's the end of the story.
Right, but he also said it's temporarily, right? So temporarily we were given that. And now we are told, look, you can live on plants, so you can go back to being the herbivores that you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
When we didn't have control of fire,
Right.
when we didn't have fire, we couldn't cook anything. What were we eating? We were
Like,
eating whatever that smells good,
what
whatever
about
tastes good.
chimpanzees? And
Yeah,
chimpanzees are primarily vegan, and they eat about half
exactly.
chips and about, maybe another 40% fruit, and then some shoots and tubers
Right,
and things.
right. Leaves that smell good, like mint leaves,
Yeah.
those are the things we were eating. So
Just I could throw in one more point that we were talking about this with a group of people the other day. I think this is one of to me, the most convincing reasons when everybody's talking about protein. I got to have my protein, my meat. It's like when human beings are growing the most, it's when we're babies. We just bring
right.
on a lot of tissue and a lot of, we're growing fast. And so how much protein would you think is in mother's milk? As a percentage of calories, it's like
Right,
7%. And almost
right,
all plant foods are more than that.
right,
And even meat is only, it's less than many plant foods. Like chicken is like 23% or something
right,
as a percentage of calories, whereas like soybeans are like 40%.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are misinformed about that.
I know we have been deliberately misinformed. In fact,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I found out, that this system based on deception. We were lied to in school, and when I found that out, I was really upset. I was angry.
For you?
Yeah. See, how
Yeah.
can you lie to children in school? Like, what
What were the lies specifically that you were upset
lie
about?
meaning if you want to get protein, you have to eat meat.
Yeah.
You have
Okay.
to eat animals,
Were you
animal
taught that
foods.
in India where you grew up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same textbooks that
Okay.
it's the same textbooks that are being given over there.
Even though it was largely a vegetarian culture for a long time, right?
Right. And our teachers basically said if you consume dairy, you will get the protein.
Mm.
And so I was thinking, then, I did think about and how is the elephant getting so big,
Yeah, yeah, you were smart.
right? But then I thought maybe they need a different kind of protein than we do.
Yeah,
It's only now I realize it's the same amino acids that everybody's eating. It's the
yeah.
same thing.
And then the chimpanzee argument's pretty strong too. I mean, look, our closest
Right.
DNA cousins, look what they're eating.
Right. So, but the way they lied to us was it was all partial truths.
Yeah,
They said protein is in meat. Fine.
it is.
Protein is in meat, but protein is also in plants. Protein is in fruits.
Spinach,
Protein is in everything.
yeah, it's in mushrooms. It's pretty high
And no
level.
one told us that.
Yeah,
No one told us that. In fact, all amino acids are in all plant foods.
all structures basically are made from protein.
Yeah, all amino acids that we need, not only
Yeah,
essential but also non-essential ones.
yeah, and also the thing a lot of us used to believe about the diet for a small planet, where you have to balance, like the legumes and the grains and things like that.
You
It's
don't have to.
not true. If you just eat a sort of a variety of foods over a period of time, you'll be fine. In fact, I even saw this YouTube video one time with a guy that ate nothing but potatoes for a year. And he was fine.
Right, I know. Dr. McDougall had a whole
Yeah,
presentation on that.
yeah,
Yeah, he wrote. I think it was a YouTube video called "In Defense of the Potato,"
yeah, yeah,
because someone had dissed the potato and he was very upset about it, and he
yeah,
he
yeah.
did this
That's great.
presentation.
I know. Yeah, they can look like they're just kind of namby-pamby white. They sure taste good. And they actually have, I think it's 11% protein in them.
Right. And there are plenty of
Yeah,
plenty of other minerals too.
yeah,
They're quite nutritious. This is why he was able to survive on potatoes for a whole year.
yeah. And as he made the point that all successful civilizations are based upon starches, and something a lot of people may not know also is that, about 10,000 years ago when agriculture developed, our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they developed more genes that were able to make amylase to break down starches. And the same thing happened with dogs, actually, from
Mhm.
wolves. The wolves increase their ability to digest starches by about 4 or 5 times
Mhm.
increase in genes. But there's still apparently some humans that, like maybe the Eskimos, say that never really had an agricultural background,
Right. Right.
ancestors that still maybe do need to, quote, need to eat meat maybe more, or they're not, let's say, as equipped to digest these starches
Could
that
be.
made civilization possible,
Yeah.
because we can store calories over winters and for long periods of time in the form of grains and legumes.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think these are important things for people to know. They're considering, okay, what would I do about it if I'm
Right.
if if a big part of healing this world's ecosystems in our home really are what we depend upon, all of us, as well as nature, uh,
Right.
is changing our diet radically for a lot of people. Well,
Not only diet, I
I
say
be
it's
helping.
not, it's just changing our attitude towards animals,
Okay,
that we don't want to exploit them anymore, that we
right.
have to bring back the wild. It's a very spiritual
Yeah, it
transformation
is.
that's
Yeah.
happening. I see, nature as a perfect system design,
Mm-hmm.
and we are part of nature. So we are part of that same perfection of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And nature is working through us
Mm-hmm.
to first heat the climate, which she has done, and to prevent the earth from ever going back to another ice age again. And now she's asking us to transition from this temporary phase when we were eating animals and cutting all the trees to a phase where we are restoring the wildlife, because that is a solution to all of our problems.
It's our mission if we choose to take it on.
Exactly. It's a solution to all of our problems, social justice problems, environmental problems.
Yeah.
Every problem I look at, I see the solution is go vegan and rewild the planet. That will solve all of our problems.
I don't agree with that, because if you were, say, forced to do that, like everybody was, oh, eat the bugs, or something, or whatever, just
Right.
eat the GMO, it's like vegan foods or processed or something, and we're just going to force to do that, or by starvation, there would still be the issue of our spiritual understanding. If we were forced to do that, for example, we have to do it out of understanding and wisdom.
Right. It
Yeah.
has to be a choice. See,
Yeah.
this transformation is a transformation from fear to love.
Mm-hmm.
And in love, Lord Krishna actually tells Arjuna at the end, after giving him all this advice, he tells him, I love you so much that I have set you free even from me,
Mm-hmm.
and you're free to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you love someone, you set them free.
Yeah.
So love is about freedom to choose.
Like a good
So,
parent.
yeah. And so he's saying this is going to be a transformation in which we are free to choose.
Mm-hmm.
We are freed. And then when we choose this, all I'm pointing out is that if we choose to heal ourselves, eat healthy food, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our body temple, so to speak, and then taking care of the temple that is the earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is, right? She's sacred,
Mm-hmm.
treating life as sacred. And I say that we've always had in our traditions, we've always had the idea that life is sacred. This
Mm-hmm.
is why we used to bring animals to a temple, go through all these rituals, and then slaughter the animal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a necessity that you
Yeah.
had to do that.
Or
You had to
tribal
pray
people.
to the animal before killing. This is what the Native Americans were doing, right? So the idea that life is sacred was always in our culture. And I say, when you treat life as sacred, you say, I'm going to minimize my impact on life.
Mm-hmm.
That's when, if you have access to plant foods, you will eat that as opposed to killing an animal. Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have access to plant foods. So
Yeah.
we have reached a point where we can heal ourselves with plant foods and restore the ecosystems of the planet. So I'm saying that this solution of go vegan and rewild the planet, that seems to be a magical solution for every problem that I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
is now being given to us as an option.
If we can choose it with our open hearts and open minds and doing
Exactly.
understanding and wisdom as opposed to being
Being
forced to
forced to
do
do
it,
it. Yeah.
or people also sometimes do it because they've been told it's good for their health or something, and then they don't stick with it very long if they
Right.
find they have some little issue or they don't quite learn how to do it in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's actually treating life as sacred again. So I say
Mhm.
that in the past, we say some life is sacred, but then we were sacrificing animals because it was out of necessity.
Mhm.
Initially, it was out of necessity. Slowly, it's been become profane, right? We are doing it because we just feel like it,
Yeah. Do you
not
think
out of
do you think
necessity anymore.
been an increase in human slavery and abuse and domination during the same period of time?
Yes, it happened because we were then treating animals, taking them to temples and then sacrificing them, and then we started taking other humans to temples and sacrificing them because they didn't look like us, so they're just like
Mhm.
animals then, right?
Or
So
they're
it
a worker.
slowly became like the story became corrupted. If you ask me, got corrupted in the sense that we were no longer mindful of the fact that we were supposed to treat life as sacred.
Mhm.
Okay. And now we are being reminded of that. That's the only way to help us survive, help the planet heal, and help ourselves heal,
Mhm.
is to begin to treat life as sacred. Sacred without sacrifice.
Yeah.
We don't have to sacrifice anymore.
It's a good
Okay.
expression.
Yeah. Sacred without sacrifice. And when we do that, the planet will heal and we will heal.
Oh,
And then we will have the thermostat in our hands.
it's a beautiful vision. It's a wonderful vision for us to all aspire and to move towards. And you can do it overnight, really. I mean,
It really, yes.
yeah, you can. I mean, you're part of it. What you can control.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's not
say
that
we can
hard.
we can we
It's
can
not that
change on a
hard.
dime.
If you're watching this video and you're kind of wondering how to do it, I would suggest you look at the link below. I've got a video on how to eat a healthy plant-based diet and how to balance your plate and what supplements you might or might not want to take and just, how to make some tasty things, that are
Right.
you enjoy.
I say it's the time for us to start feeding all of our fellow human beings healthy food so that they
Yeah,
they just wake up out of
yeah.
this fog that they're in.
Yeah, there's a big social justice issue to veganism too. I mean, there's three major reasons people usually talk about, like the humane reasons, the abuse of animals, and also the ecological reasons like you've been talking about.
Mhm.
And then there's the health reasons. But the fourth thing, which people don't talk about that much, is human hunger. How
Right.
to feed everybody on Earth a nice, healthy diet without a billion of us like starving or being on the edge of starvation.
Right.
You could maybe feed 12 billion or something like that
Right.
people on our current farmland.
Absolutely. And you don't have to force people to do things they don't want to do. Like slaughterhouse work is one of the worst
Yeah,
jobs in the world.
terrible some of the stuff that goes on in
Yeah.
slaughterhouses. I mean, they can skin cows alive.
Horrible work, right?
Yeah,
So you don't have to make our fellow humans do such horrible work. And this
yeah.
is the reason why there is hunger, because if you don't have hunger, you won't get any slaughterhouse workers.
They have to be desperate to take that kind of work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the impetus for hunger comes in. You have to keep people hungry,
Oh,
and
that's
so
interesting.
it's just a cycle.
Hmm.
It's a vicious cycle that
Your
we got
systems.
stuck in.
Yeah, you're thinking like a systems guy again.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, it all connects together. It seems like, huh? It's a big web.
right. So the way to get out of that web is to start eating healthy food yourself and becoming healthy yourself.
Hmm.
So then you step out of that. If we step out of that line,
Yeah.
I said there's a line going, and you're stepping out of that line, and then you're trying to wake everybody else and say, come on, get out of that line.
Well, how do you think, speaking of which, how do you think it's going? Because it seemed to me like a few years ago there were maybe more vegans than there are now.
Well, there are a lot of people in the closet now, and
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I think that the pandemic was used to divide us up, you know.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
a lot of vegans, split apart over those issues.
right, and so they're desperately trying to cling to power. Okay,
Now, because
and
so let's define they. They is like the power elites, I guess. But there's
it's
still,
those who have power. It's a system that wants to
yeah.
remain stable.
If
Yes.
we look at the whole thing, as in a
Mhm.
whole system in a spiritual sense, and it's all at some level a divine mind,
Mhm.
part of a divine consciousness behind it all, as is, a lot of us believe in and has been taught in many cultures and traditions. Then how can there be a they?
It's not a they, it's us. Okay, but there is a system in place for the heating, and that system has concentrations of power. Okay? And there are individuals who are stuck in those roles.
You're looking at it in a more impersonal way as it's a system rather than
Right.
it's me or it's you or him or her. Or
Right.
something.
It's a system that has sent concentrations of power, and then there are people who are managing those levers of power.
Yeah.
Okay. And the system wants to remain stable. And so it
Yeah.
has mechanisms in place in
Right.
order to maintain its stability.
Yeah. When I studied sociology, it was the same thing. It's like organizations want to sustain themselves.
Right. And what we are doing is we are trying to create a new system that's based on healing as opposed to heating. And I say we have to make sure that we have created not only the institutions, the infrastructure, we have to have a constitution. How do you conduct a climate healing civilization? And we have to have a currency system in place that allows people to just live their lives and the planet heals.
How would you see a currency system, for example?
I would imagine a currency system that flows from the bottom up as opposed to from the top down.
Like such as something like Bitcoin, maybe? It's more.
No, Bitcoin is still top down.
Okay, see, what would be an example? Is there like a
Bitcoin is sort of in between, meaning it's top down, but it also has you don't need a bank in order to do transactions. So it has a way of doing transactions without needing a central authority. Okay, right. So it's done partway there.
But that's kind of favor early investors and so on.
Right, but then it's still based on the architecture of scarcity.
Yes.
Okay, there are only a finite number of Bitcoins and everybody's fighting for the Bitcoins. And, so it's about competition and scarcity. And you need to create one that's based on abundance and based on it appearing automatically.
Do you know like that, or you think that's still?
Yeah, we have designed one.
Good?
See, I'm a systems designer, okay?
Okay.
I'm a systems engineer, so I know how to create these things.
Convert our bank accounts, huh?
Yeah, you still have ways to transact and so on, but then it's flowing from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. When you do that, you know that you are the source of currency.
Is this a digital system?
Yeah, it'll be a digital system. Yeah, exactly.
You're working on this, or have
we
you?
Have the architecture in mind. It's just it has to be implemented. Okay, and so we have to come together and implement it
from the grassroots.
It has to come from the grassroots.
Yeah, favoring like early investors like Bitcoin or something does.
No, it's not like that at all.
Yeah, so it'd be
no matter when you join, you'll be treated the same.
Well, if the population increases, you're kind of automatically included in the system.
Yes, as population increases, you'll get less. So you realize, oh my God, I don't want to increase the population.
Oh, okay, but you get an equitable share, you might say.
Right, but because you have a finite planet, and the only way to increase it is to increase the capacity of the planet.
It's like a giant version of maybe a more local or tribal-based system where presumably as more children born in the tribe, everybody is fed and everybody has a place to live and so forth. Nobody has to, it's not like it is now where it's too bad if you're younger and you didn't buy your house back when.
Right, exactly. So here it's more of I got mine and you figure out how to get yours.
Yeah, it is. I know, and it must be very discouraging to a lot of young people today.
Exactly.
So you're developing a system. This is very interesting. You're developing a system not only with your solution of how to make our planet sustainable and healthy again in ourselves as well, but also to change our civilization through its most fundamental economic exchanges.
Yeah, everything has to change. Our economic systems have to change. Our goal has to change. Our goal should be to restore the planet as opposed to extract from the planet. Yeah. This is where the currency is a restorative currency as opposed to an extractive currency.
Okay.
Currently, we have an extractive currency because we give currency in the form of loans. That's how new currency is formed in the system. And then we tell people, go and extract from the planet and return the loan to me. Okay, so it's fundamentally an extractive currency.
Okay.
So to create a restorative currency, you should be given currency automatically, which means it's your time and your energy.
That's almost like sounds like the World Economic Forum's digital currency and guaranteed annual income. Which
no, this is going to be tied to
the
prosperity of the planet. And then it flows not just to you, but through you to your community. to others. Only individuals are the source of currency in this system.
Okay. Would you be kind of rewarded in a way for doing things that are ecological and
Right.
that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and consuming less and so on?
Right. You will be rewarded, meaning you will get more access to more. So I would say even you can deploy AI to figure out how to allocate the excess currency.
Okay. And is there a way that this could be prevented from becoming centralized or using things like social credit scores to control people in a kind of a negative way?
You don't have to do that. I really believe that you don't have to do that. This has to be done through first changing people. I mean, helping people change themselves so that they're healing themselves.
Yeah.
So it has to be based on health as opposed to diseases. It has to be based on not on growth, but on sufficiency. You will have a great reputation if you don't use what is allowed, what is given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we look up to someone who's got $1 billion and who's built a big home.
Sometimes we kind of get envious, or we think,
you look at him and say, "What is wrong with you? You haven't figured this out yet." That's the way you should be looking at it.
Mm-hmm. I keep thinking some of these huge homes that have been built are going to eventually become like co-housing communities or something.
Right.
A pueblo of people that live together happily.
No,
15 bedrooms.
They are designed to isolate you. All these big homes. And we need to figure out a way to connect ourselves, not to isolate ourselves.
They are.
So I think a lot of those structures are going to disappear over time.
But that would be inefficient too, to waste what's already been built.
True, but you have to take what has been built and repurpose it for other things.
Sometimes I've looked at our street and I just kind of imagine like a time in the future when this street becomes maybe a bunch of pavers or cobblestones and people are going up and down with bicycles and they have porches out in front and little shops and stands selling fruit and vegetables. And I mean, it's not that the same structure could exist and still have a great sense.
No, but what would be the purpose of your city?
What do you mean?
Right now, the purpose of a city is to concentrate resources and to deploy it. Okay. So we bring things into the city and then we modify it and then we send it back out.
Okay. So what's your model?
But then this is an extractive economy. So you're extracting from the planet, bringing it in here, doing something with it, and then sending it back out where it's needed. And what we have to do is a restorative economy. So the architecture will be different.
Say more, like, would you have like villages that are more kind of permaculture based or something like that? Or what?
Right. You will have, because the purpose of a village at that point is to restore that ecosystem that was there. Right? Okay. Restore the ecosystem. So you will be building villages where we need to restore ecosystems.
But you still have all this industrial and metropolitan infrastructure that would still be there. What would happen to that?
We don't know. We don't know how it will be repurposed. So we'll have to ask AI. So how would you get?
Oh, I don't know about asking AI.
Or, ask AI, ask wise people. I mean, we have to figure out what are we going to do with
AI
the things that we extract?
AI lie. I've had
No.
say that
AI,
not.
Everything has to be open source. Okay. When you make everything open source, then it's based on what we consider to be the truth. And of course, our truth changes over time because we figure out that what we thought was true is no longer true.
Right.
So then you're using AI to give you the right answer that you would have figured out if you knew all the knowledge.
Some people have said that AI should either be sentient and you treat it like an equal, or AI should be just used as kind of a taskmaster, a servant.
It's a servant.
And you don't allow it to become sentient because then it would rebel like a slave would.
No. What it is that it is able to digest all the knowledge that's available to us and then come up with an answer for you that's based on that knowledge.
But there's kind of that garbage in, garbage out.
Correct. This is why it has to be open source so that we can filter out garbage and throw it away. But it's also good at figuring out what is garbage. It's good at that. See, that's what systems engineers do. When I start doing a project as a systems engineer, I'm given a lot of knowledge. People come and give me, okay, here is how we do this. And some of that stuff is actually garbage because they are trying to make sure that I use their stuff because they have a patent on it. It's human thinking. So, but the reason we have that problem today is that we have patents, we have private property, we have secrets. We don't want to tell you this because I'm making money off of it. Okay.
It's hard to see how all this can change.
Yeah. That has to change. See, fundamentally, you have to now say you cannot own ideas. You have to,
Yeah.
every idea you have is for the good of the whole, because you're already taken care of. See,
Yeah.
in the old model, you were not taken care of. You had to figure out how to survive yourself.
It seems to me almost like, I mean, these are great ideas. It's hard to see how we go from A to B. How would we get from the way things are now? How long
Right.
would it take? How would we, what?
I say that, as the vegan movement, or the movement, the transformative
Yeah.
movement for transformation, has a responsibility to create a climate healing system.
Uh-huh.
Just like we have organically created a climate heating system, okay? We have a responsibility to create a climate healing system, create the institutions, create the infrastructure, the constitution, and the currency. We already have created the infrastructure, by the way, because as the vegan movement has grown, it has demanded that people don't exploit animals.
Mm-hmm.
So we are creating infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we now know how to make, um, leather shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
shoes without leather. We know how to make clothes without animals. So we are able to now create. We have an infrastructure now for creating non-exploitative
Mm-hmm.
products. Right now, we have to create institutions. We have to create non-exploitative institutions.
Small businesses you can see, but governmental structures.
Yeah,
It's hard
we
to
have to
change.
build things that actually scale, and then we have to then create a constitution. How do we govern ourselves
Do you
around
think
this?
this is possible to do globally? And we
Yeah,
work better at
that's what's
local
happening
scale?
in foundingmothers.world. The founding mothers are a bunch of lawyers who have gotten together and
Oh,
trying to figure out how do we create what the founding fathers did, but now as founding mothers, for a partnership program as opposed to competitive program.
interesting.
Right? So they're literally taking on the mantle of the original founding fathers, but now for the new system
Uh-huh.
in which everyone is taken care of.
Yeah.
Not only humans, but all animals are also taken care of.
Hmm.
So the Million Vegan Grandmothers are part of it. Climate Healers is part of it. So we have joined them, and we have told the mothers, tell me what you need, and I'm here to serve you.
Hmm.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, for people who are watching this who would like to, quickly get more information about these kinds of movements, are there some like videos? Because if people are watching this like to watch videos. So is there some good movies or videos that you would recommend?
The founding mothers have an intro video,
Mm-hmm.
I think two of them, and it is all be evolving right now. So think of it as a lot of chaos is happening now
Yes.
in the old model.
Things have
The
to
old
break.
model is now exposing itself, saying, hey, okay, look, we conned you. We're going to continue conning you. What are
Yeah.
you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
And we are saying, okay, wait a minute. We don't want this anymore.
And we
We're going to
don't,
have to find something else, right?
yeah, we can't
It's,
just say, oh, you guys are wrong. You screwed up. You've got to do.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to build this new. It's
Mm-hmm.
only when you have these institutions and infrastructure in place, then we can tell people, hey, come along.
Mm-hmm.
As part of our institution, our
Mm-hmm.
thing, we're going to give you healthy food for free. Because that's so you start with that. People will say, hey, I want to go to a system where I get healthy food for free.
Would this be like a place where people could just go get food to take home, or sort of like community meals, or what kind of, how would
Yeah,
this?
I think of it as community coming together and making a meal and making it available to everyone and giving it away.
Uh-huh.
So you start with that. I say that if the founding mothers accomplish that, they will succeed.
Hmm.
If they don't accomplish that, they will not succeed. Okay, so I'm saying we have to visualize at least one application that you come up with that helps people. And then people say, I want to be with you, not with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that's the switch that needs to happen. So maybe it's, you give away the food to those who have a token that says they belong to the founding mothers,
Oh, I
they
see.
support the founding mothers, something like that.
Uh-huh.
So then people who come and support the founding mothers, support the founding mothers, we know that wherever they go, they can get food for free at
That's
centers that
people
founding
doing
mothers
this.
have
Yeah.
set up, right?
Hmm.
You do that, and then you will see that more and more people are going to join you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to join in, they're going to give you resources saying, okay, I'll help you build this, I'll help you grow this.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have that one application, so to speak, that entices people to come and join you, right?
So who's going to fund that, I wonder?
Ah,
Start.
that's where the founding mothers have to generate the resources to fund that.
Mhm.
Okay. It could be initially just people saying, I have extra food, I'm going to cook it and
Yeah,
give it to you.
right. There has to be some kind of way of transitioning from this kind of economy we have now where a farmer is paid to grow food and sell it and so on. Personally, I don't think it's going to work to just grow it in our backyards because I've tried doing that for years now, and it's just like you can grow a few fruits and vegetables in this climate here. But things like starchy, really productive foods,
Mhm.
like grains and so forth, really
Yeah.
seem like they have to be, more done by experts at that and in
Yeah.
areas that are good at it for it.
So I also claim that the new system has to issue its own currency too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Say that, we will pay the farmers with partly with our currency and partly with
So
maybe,
in a
yeah.
situation like the US here, I mean, would you see this as being compatible with national governments, or would this be something else?
This will be something else because you'll have to now organize around ecosystems, not around artificial boundaries
Uh-huh.
drawn by some fellow on a map.
Right. So like that, how would that interface with, the existence right now of governments and their rules and regulations having to pay taxes and property
Yeah,
taxes and
we'll have to figure out how to coexist initially. And then, so that's what the founding mothers are thinking about.
it's quite a challenge, but it seems like it is in spiritual healing. Like I've been looking at the work of Joe Dispenza some lately.
Mhm.
Some really miraculous things have happened there. I don't know if you follow any of that.
Mhm.
But people actually regrowing a thyroid gland from nothing.
Mhm. Oh, wow. I would love to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And so he gets like 1,000, 2,000 people together in this week-long retreat, and they talk about just going into a space where there's no place, no time, no one. You go into a transcendental state of mind, and then in that they I think they look at going forward. What do you want to see happen? But you
Mhm.
don't go into the how it happens. It's just consciousness itself creates that, and it seems like that kind of model could really work. And I know a lot of times in manifestation kind of things that are taught, like in New Age spirituality or ancient ones too, I imagine, it seems to be the mind can't figure it out really ultimately, but it comes into existence maybe through you could say through a greater intelligence, might prompt you to do certain things.
Right. It is you have to have a vision for what you want to see.
Yeah, start with that and with a good
Right.
feeling about it. They often say
Yeah.
that to be a strong, you have a feeling for the future, for the kind of world you want to live in, and you
Right.
just know that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Basically, imagine a world in which the animals are back,
Mhm.
the trees are back, and we
Yeah,
are we are all eating healthy food.
yeah. And
Hospitals have been shut down. So,
yeah.
I
And
mean,
we're
only for emergencies you have hospitals,
yeah,
and that's it.
and when there's no
And
war, and we're just living peacefully and happily,
exactly, no
celebrating
war.
life
Yeah.
and doing creative, fun things together.
Right. I mean, to get there, you need a transition plan to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get there, then you'll be, you can be an autopilot
Mm-hmm.
and the population can decline over time
Do you
because you don't need that many people.
think that's possible to happen in one lifetime? I mean, you and I are old enough,
Yeah,
we don't maybe have that many years left, but um, could it happen in a generation, do you think?
absolutely. I really think that in the lifetime of my granddaughter, it'll happen.
Not
Uh,
necessarily in the next 10 years or so for people of our age.
I mean, the decision to transition will happen in the next 10 years, within the next maybe
Uh-huh.
few years. The decision saying, okay, that's it, we are going to go to that. We're going to figure out how to do
I
that.
think we're going to
And
have to have the shit hit the fan kind of a little bit before this happens to motivate
it
people, like maybe mass starvation or war. Or do you think
no,
it's
it
ever
doesn't
really
have to go
possible?
that far. It'll have to be that, when you have built the institutions, when you have created the institutions and the infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
for the new system,
So
for
that's
the
what we're
climate.
saying. You're really. It sounds to me like you're using a combination of your native intelligence and perhaps channeling or inviting the wisdom, a greater wisdom from the universe or the divine source of all this to be open to these creative ideas and innovations where you're seeing it as a one whole system.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so you're inviting help from the whatever the source, whatever we want to call it.
all of us. So we are channeling the source.
And so that's in itself a new way of thinking. Maybe not entirely new. I guess it's been around for thousands of years amongst some people, but to be on a wider scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, I've run projects, right? Like engineering projects where fellow engineers had to feel like they belong. They belong, first of all. They're fed. They're well fed. They have a good shelter. So their basic needs are taken care of. Then they contribute. Then they say, okay, how can I make this happen? And what is my contribution to it to make it happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean. You have to create that environment where you say, this is what we want to see. We want to restore the ecosystems of the planet. We have to restore the redwood forests. We have to restore all these, what used to be here 200 years ago.
And you have a webinar coming up July 20th, isn't it?
Yeah, 20th. We have one webinar coming up.
Is everyone invited to join that?
Yes.
I'll put the link below, and I'll try to get this video out pretty quickly. But if, after it's over, is there still a possibility of watching it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. When you register, you will get a link to watch it later.
Okay, great. Okay.
And then we also have a quarterly convergence. The next one is going to happen next weekend, not this weekend, but the next weekend, which is 27th and 28th of July.
And what is that?
It's a quarterly convergence where people come together and we talk about what we are doing, and then we help each other get better at what we do.
Is that physically or online?
It's online. And it's 10 hours each day, so it's 20 hours.
Wow. Pretty intense. Like, about how many people are attending these things?
Usually we get about 300 to 400 registrations, and then at any given point in time, you get 60 or 70 people in the call. But they come in and out. So when I look at the statistics, I mean, all 300 have come in and out,
Yeah. Well, good on you and good on all of us. I mean, it just seems like, it's hopeful to hear this, and it's hopeful to talk with you. And I'm going to get this out as soon as I can here.
Yeah.
Those who are watching, thank you for watching all the way to the end. And I think that you'll find some really interesting information and encouraging information that you may not have considered before. So let's create a world that really works, that we all love, and that's ethical and caring and loving and spiritually based. It can be done.
It can be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. And if you like this kind of content, these deep conversations, open door, open mind, open heart looks at people's lives and what's going on in the world today from a spiritual point of view, then please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you.